Hey everyone, welcome to the fifth episode of Seasoned Veterans. I
Woo!
am Bobby, taking you through another whole season of a TV show, joined by Nicole. How's it going, Nicole?
I'm great. I'm Nicole. How are you, Bobby?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a busy work day, but we're recording this during the holidays, and we're very excited to talk about a new series. First off, we made it through a whole series. Honestly, it's something I didn't think we'd actually fully do. When I was trying to cook this thing up, I was like, I don't want to do it where we record two episodes and then just leave it. That was a big worry I had. So I'm glad that we made it through an entire series, and now we're getting into a new series, Dirty John, on Netflix.
Still itching for the next season of Better Call Saul to come out.
Yeah, that's actually a whole other thing. I don't know if you want to talk about what's going on there.
Well, it was delayed, but I hear now that it's confirmed that there's going to be 6 seasons. So it's like,
And the
good
movie?
and bad news all together. But we won't talk about that too much. Let's really dig into Dirty John.
Yeah, we're not here for Better Call Saul. We will be back eventually for Better Call Saul, but
Oh, yes.
right
There
now,
will be more.
Dirty John. And I'll say right out the gate, this was a show I didn't really expect to watch. I had no interest in watching. It wasn't even on my radar to watch.
It was a suggestion from my sister. We actually watched it with her hubby, and intermittently my mom throughout a visit with the family. So a pretty unique viewing experience, which we'll kind of get into later. But yeah, wasn't really on my radar either, and glad we got to see it. Although I think it can be summed up with Deborah is dumb.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, jeez. That's that should be like the tagline for this show. Like if you're looking at it on Netflix, you type in Dirty John. Now, but you know what? Before we even get into that, if you're looking this up later on Netflix, like you see this episode, you're like, hey, you know what? I want to watch that before I listen to the Season's Veteran episode. You should know there are two Dirty Johns on Netflix. There is a documentary series which is based off of, I believe, a podcast that specifically focuses on that story. The Dirty John story, the Dirty John podcast. That is not what we're doing here today. We're talking about the TV show starring Eric Bana, who I gotta say is terrific in this. He is way too good as the creepy, over the line psycho John Meehan.
do not like him.
I know.
Would be creeped out if I met him on a street.
And that's what surprised me is Eric Bana. I never like looking at him in past movies, and the one I'm thinking of most is the Hulk. Um, I never would have expected him to be a creepy guy, but he is so creepy in this. Like he just does. To me, it's like you're looking at all these people, and for some reason, there aren't really a lot of heavy hitters actor wise in this. Eric Bana is about as big as it gets. Some people would argue that Gene Smart is bigger than him. I would disagree on that. But that's really it. There aren't a ton of A-lister movie Hollywood types in this series. And Eric Bana does majority of the carrying in terms of getting you from one scene to another and not turning it off because fuck this guy. I'm tired of watching this woman make stupid decisions. Like he is what keeps me invested for a lot of the series because I just want to see what he's going to do next. And then there's a problem with the series. I'm sure we're going to get into a bit more. The fact that nobody else seems to notice how fucked up John Meehan is.
He is so crazy. I don't understand how so many red flags get ignored.
Yes.
And I think that's what. So the documentary series is actually kind of like an accompaniment to
Oh,
the
really?
show.
Okay.
Um, I saw a quick little blurb now, on Wikipedia that it's like so a look at him through the eyes of the people he manipulated and kind of a little bit how he got away with it maybe, which you don't really like. So often I was just like, oh my god, you're so dumb, like
Yeah.
what are you doing?
There wasn't points where I was like, man, how is he's playing this so precise. How is he getting away with it? No, the guy's a fucking idiot throughout the entire series. He just happens to be married to somebody infinitely dumber than he is.
I think so.
It's like that's what really frustrated me about the show was like there's this story like I'm sure anybody listening knows somebody in some way that has been in a similar relationship where a member of the relationship is abusive in some capacity. Doesn't have to be physical, but controlling, manipulating, maybe emotionally abusive, something like that. And in that regard, watching this, you just like are screaming to be like, figure this out. Like, it's like watching every dumb friend not realize that their spouse is fucking garbage.
Yeah, like, do you not see what he's doing? And even her daughters. Oh my god, it was like really upsetting at points
Yeah.
to just watch her continue to do the like thing after thing after thing to let him get further into her life and put herself and her children in peril.
I know. I felt almost no pity or empathy for Deborah throughout the entire series.
Her kids, very much so.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Also, surprise, she has a son that comes into...
Didn't even put him on the cast list for my research. I was like, yeah, whatever. That guy, like, he's there. No, that's, I know it's and the way they tell the story is kind of weird too. And I think, like, we've talked about this already before. If you've seen the show, I'm hoping that you're going along with us that Deborah Newell is way too dumb to be almost a millionaire. She owns her own company. She's super successful, but she is perhaps the dumbest character I have ever seen in a television series.
Quick summary. She's rich and successful, single mother of 3 adults, living on her own, beautiful home. She starts online dating, meets the biggest creep possible, is married to him in 2 months, and within a few months, he is attempting to murder her and her children.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck?
I know, and it's weird too, as the like hearing that laid out. It's like, yeah, that's this whole fucking story is stupid. But when you see the ramp up to it, it's like crushingly stupid. Like it physically hurts you to watch somebody be this dumb over and over again, while everybody that they know is telling them don't be this dumb. Like, that's what I thought was the biggest challenge watching this series was, you know, after episode 3, I was like, I don't even feel bad for this woman anymore. She's fucking this up herself. Like,
yeah,
sorry.
She's just digging herself deeper and deeper into a hole. And the more you learn about her history, too, the less it makes sense what she's doing.
Yeah,
like when
I'd
you,
agree.
you know, we're maybe jumping ahead a little bit here, but finding out about her sister and brother-in-law and that heartbreaking story, it's like, how could you ever let this man into your life this quickly?
So you're not even take it a bit farther and be, and you know, I may not know this, and hopefully I realize this sort of tragedy, but after living through something like that, how are you this, like, naive, bubbly person?
Right?
Like, there's something, like, I understand getting over grief and trauma and getting on with your life, but in watching this show, Deborah Newell took nothing from what happened to her sister. Took nothing away from it. She didn't learn anything. And that's what's really frustrating, because it's your sister. Like, her and her mother went through the loss of a child. Like, you know, she lost a sister, her mother lost a daughter, and they both seem to learn fuck all from it.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
as
it's frustrating.
Oh my god. So, and as I said, we watched this series with my sister and my mom. So obviously there was a lot of, you know, symbolism, putting ourselves in these characters' shoes as we watched it. And when that storyline was revealed, like, I was in tears. Like, I could not imagine something like that happening to my sister and then just carrying on with my life, like, la-di-da. Unshaped. My mom was so horrified with Deborah's mom. It was honestly comical to see her react to that. The lack of, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what emotional capacity or lacking you have to be able to function in that way.
Well, I think a lot of it is willful ignorance from Deborah.
Yeah.
Because a big part of the beginning of the series is that she's been divorced 4 times. I think it's 4 times.
Too many.
Yeah, which is, like, you know, I understand if you're looking for love, sometimes you don't find it, but, like, after 4 divorces, you got to start looking inside, you know, like, maybe I'm not completing these the same way that they're not completing me, You know, like, you can't be like 100% every guy I've married has been stupid. No.
And at the very least, for those 4 marriages, she had a prenup. She was smart. She kept her
Oh
money
my
and her
fucking
kids safe.
God. Don't even remind me about this. Because, yeah, she marries this guy. Like, within, I think, a month of them being, meeting online, which is, I understand, in 2019, a great way to meet people. But not when you are a naive person who is looking for anybody to give them attention. That is a recipe for not a good outcome. You're going to find people who hit the lowest common denominator, and that's exactly what happened here. And she meets John, and John pretends to be Prince Charming and blows it on the first date by trying to hook up with her, but calls back and says how he screwed it up because he likes her so much. And then on the second date, he does end up hooking up with her, and then they start living together immediately. And then within a few weeks, she spends like what, $85,000 on like some sweet California beach house rental for them to live in. They haven't even been together. They've been together less time than I have been working at my new job, and they now live together.
And she never sees where he lives when, before they move in
Yeah,
together.
that shitty fucking motorhome
Yeah. He
out in
makes
the desert.
up these bold lies about his past and his ex-wife, and she does nothing to verify that. Like,
No, you're absolutely right. She just takes it at face value and lets this guy into her life with her children.
and right from the get-go, like, A, you're never supposed to meet someone online at your home, especially not when you're filthy rich and your child is present in that home. And I know her kids are grown-ups, but still,
One of them's a grown up.
one
The other one's like maybe 18.
Yeah.
I think. Probably 17, I'd say.
quite young, and either way, like, vulnerable. Like, you should always be protecting your children as a mom, that as a parent, as a father, or that's something I strongly believe.
Yeah, but not fucking Deborah Newell.
No. And she just, like, right from the get-go is so dumb. We see later in that episode where we, see stuff from John's perspective, that when he calls Deborah to set up that date, he's like, I know we're not supposed to do it in that age, and it's up to you.
I want to walk you. I want to meet you at your house and walk you to dinner to be a
let's do it.
gentleman.
Right.
Way to make gentlemen look like assholes, John.
Oh my God. Like, I understand that's what they're doing, is trying to show, like, oh, that's how he manipulates. But, like, no, you're just dumb. Like, that's not, like, that's a huge red flag.
It should be when you're initially dating online. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
And
agree.
you know what? At the very least, if you wanna walk me somewhere like a gentleman,
Meet somewhere.
meet somewhere. Why don't we meet at the park and
Let's
walk
go
to
get
dinner?
meat somewhere. Yeah. We'll stop at a hot dog cart on the way to dinner. That's where we'll meet.
Yeah.
Clearly, I do not date very well. So, congratulations to that one, Nicole.
Like, John, this show was setting off all sorts of red flags and anxiety.
What really got me, and I've said this to a number of people, because it was the single most standout, this guy is obviously fucked up moment, and maybe I just related to it too much, not because I'm guilty of it, but just because I understand the feeling. But I think it's for their Easter dinner. It's when they're having people over at Deborah's house. It's not Easter, is it? Or Thanksgiving?
I think it is
Is
Easter.
it Easter? Yeah. But they have them over at Deborah's house, and it's like Deborah and John's new place. Which, in my mind, when you're the new addition, like, you've just met somebody, you're now a couple, and you're having a family event, you want to put on the best possible version of yourself for this event, right?
Dressed to the nines.
Yeah. Be conversational, be engaging, be
Greet
charming.
people at the door.
You know.
Look, I made something. I didn't make Deborah do all the work.
He fucking walks into the living room with a sandwich and sits down to pretend to play Madden, because nobody I've ever seen playing video games holds a fucking control like that. Like, Eric Bana, I love you. You're a great actor. You've never played a video game in your life, and that's very apparent. But in what world can this guy sit down in his living room with a sandwich and play video games while the family of his new spouse is there for a holiday?
And he's wearing sweatpants and the shittiest smirk look on his face I have ever seen.
Like, if that was, like, one of my cousins or, like, a relative, I'd be like, what the fuck's your problem? Not some new guy that, like, is just nudging in on my fucking relative's house. Like, this guy gets so much of a pass through so much of this. And I'm, like, as we're sitting here talking about it, it's a question I've thought about so many times. If this is how it actually went down, this is all stupid. Like, the
Yeah.
actual Deborah Newell deserved it. If this, like, I'm saying, if this is how it went down, if the way they just showed us on Netflix, if she made all these decisions and had all these stupid, naive, ignorant responses to horrible moments, you did it to yourself. And if not, why would you tell the story this way, where you look like you're just the dumbest person on the planet?
So dumb.
I've thought about this way too much. It's so frustrating.
Watching this, it was like at times 5 of us just being like, "You're so dumb" to a TV.
While the 2 daughters echo, "You're being so dumb"
Yeah.
on the TV. Like, it's ridiculous.
And I have to give it to Connie Britton, I believe is the actress's
Yeah, she
name.
played Deborah.
Because she fucking nailed that dumb, confused look that she did repeatedly, where she's just like kind of looking around and like, I don't know what?
Yeah, you just explained something to her that she never thought she'd have to think about, but what you just explained to her was her abusive husband.
Yeah.
Like,
What
how
do
is
you
this
mean
not all
he
you're
has all
thinking
these
about?
restraining orders?
Like,
Could it possibly be someone with the same name and face and jerk attitude?
Yeah,
like,
and fingerprints and social insurance number, like, just fucking dumb. And like, there was a few moments of sympathy because when the show gets going, it's like, I get it. She is at the rock bottom of her love life. You know,
she's alone.
I can
her
feel for
kids
that.
are moving out.
Yeah, but that's something that
empty
you can empathize
nesting.
with. You know,
Yeah.
like at some point in your life, even if we've been together how many years, right? Like I can remember being a teenager and having that feeling, and I'm sure it's way bigger when you're this like mid-50s, like successful businesswoman in California. I totally get that, but that still doesn't excuse how many horrible things she just accepts as being fact with John Newell. Or not John Newell, oh God. John Meehan. Jeez, I'm screwing up all these goddamn names. Deborah Newell. No, that'd be funny if that would have been
her
the
name.
twist.
In their Vegas wedding.
Oh God. And like, yeah, even... see, I'm trying to get all caught up on how angry this made me,
And
but the ball just rolls. You know?
It's not even like they were Ross and Rachel level drunk.
No.
For a Vegas wedding, you know? Like, oh yeah, this is a great idea. Woo, no prenup. Let's do it.
And she had, I got a prenup in my 4 other marriages, but I'm not going to get a prenup in this one because
Lucky
it's for
number
real.
5.
Like, don't you get prenups in case you're wrong about it being for real? Like, isn't that kind of the whole point of that? Especially when one of you has tons of money and the other one just got out of prison and lives in a motorhome?
And to protect your business and children and their future.
Oh, God, Deborah Newell. Fucking... It honestly, like, trying to do, like, research and notes on this and rewatching it, it irks me the wrong way. Like, it's, at the very least, it's 2 garbage people garbaging up each other's lives. You know what? It's better that than somebody who actually, established and worked. Like, I get that she's a successful decorating company. Like, I get that she's successful in that regard. But, like, you get the feeling that she just does not pay enough attention to what's going on in her life.
I think she's way too trusting and naive. And to a certain extent, that's admirable. And that's something I believe too, that you should believe the best of people and give them the benefit of the doubt, and not jump to the worst conclusions. But at a certain extent, you also have to trust your gut instinct and not ignore blatant red flags.
Yeah, patterns form. That happens.
And there's a difference between giving people the benefit of the doubt and having them move into your life so quickly and permanently at your own peril.
And it again, it's not even like that story of my kids are just being emotional because I'm moving on and I found someone. Like, how many movies have you seen?
They don't like him because they dislike anyone.
Exactly. No, they are 100% correct on this guy, and she plays it off like, oh, these kids. Like, no, woman.
They're even just like, take it slow. Like, slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
You don't have to live with him. You don't have to marry him. Like, honestly, if my mom got married and I wasn't included, that would be such a betrayal.
Yeah, it'd be devastating. Absolutely.
And like, my stepdad has been in the picture for over a decade now. But like, Even now, a surprise wedding, I would be so upset.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one.
And for them to have to find out that they're married through a third party?
Well, and it's kind of shitty too because a lot of what happens in that relationship seems to trickle down to Deborah's daughters, not from her, from just other random people in their lives.
Yeah.
Which you'd think, being a mother to two children, she would realize is not how they've communicated.
3.
Or 3, yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, that's not how they communicate with each other. Like, you know, we see it in the last, I think it's the final episode, where they're like in the apartment figuring out what pizza they're gonna order, and they're all like, they're all giving Tara shit for wanting like that cauliflower and pineapple, whatever the hell it was. And it's like, you know, that's a family. That's the family dynamic that, like, I believe. I don't believe Deborah thinking her daughters are just being jealous when she realizes John is actively trying to steal Veronica's purses from the safe in the earlier episodes.
Yeah.
Like, not even like, oh, you're just being overreactive. Like, he's literally trying to bust into the safe, trying to figure out the combination, trying to catch her, put the combination in so he can get into it later, and she catches him doing that, and she's still just like, no, you're just being dramatic. Like, what does it take?
And even, okay, maybe jumping to that conclusion is dramatic, but what was he doing in your closet in the first place? Like, him being there, him watching her, that's creepy. That's something to be concerned about.
It's not your mom's girlfriend, like, you know, her new friend being like, oh my God, look at all these clothes you have. It's some guy trying, like, eyeing up the safe in your walk-in closet, you know? It's not like he has an interest, a vested interest. I'm going to put that up on the pun tally for me there. In what's happening. He's just trying to get to the fucking purses. And she even says she knows how expensive the stuff she has is. That's why she puts it in a safe.
Yeah.
Like a smart person. Not like her fucking mom. Ugh. Honestly, as I'm sitting here talking about it, I feel like we finally got to a point now where we can talk about the first time Deborah goes back to John. Because it happens more than once. If you didn't think it did, it does. And it is increasingly frustrating every fucking time it happens. Because after they meet, they get married, and a bunch of strange stuff goes down with John stealing money, John tracking Deborah, John harassing people, like just doing all kinds of stuff that you can't really relate back to him, but we know as the viewer he's doing.
And he grabs control quickly.
Yeah, like, very quickly.
They get into this routine where
the morning milkshake or the morning shakes. Yep.
The morning shake. I'm going to bring you your phone that I've already snooped through everything that's happened since I snooped through it last. I'm going to drive your brand new car and drop you off at work and then take it to do whatever the fuck I want until I come pick you up at work, even though there's multiple vehicles and you could just drive yourself to work and I could drive myself to whatever the fuck I'm doing all day.
He establishes the dominant routine.
Such control. She has no freedom. She has no escape right from the get-go.
The second he wakes up in that house, she's already trapped.
Yep.
No, and they make that very clear too in the show with some of the video work that they do with like her waking up and it's a different smoothie every day, and you know, showing us a bit longer of the morning routine as that montage goes on. That was actually one of the cooler things about the series, for it being like a dark romance thriller. They actually had some pretty cool ideas with how to frame what was going on, and it not just be you know, look at how crazy this is. Look at how dramatic this is. Look at how violent this is. Yeah. Like, they had some pretty artistic stuff in there, specifically, jumping ahead a bit, when John lights her car on fire. I really thought that sequence was well done. It was cool.
Yes.
And it wasn't the typical, like, it ended the typical light it on fire and walk away slow like a fucking badass. But I just liked how they cut that in with, like, we've underestimated what John's willing to do here by thinking he's done this to get to you. Like, he did that to build a case against, like, you know, to increase him being the wronged party in this. You know, like, same with him having a cane when he goes into the fucking courthouse.
Absolutely.
Same thing with him saying his MS is flaring up. Like, it's that shit, you know? He's always doing that shit. And that's what really sinks the nails in to Deborah before she even realizes what's going on. It's, like, in that regard, it's impressive. Like, when we get the episode where we see how John does what he does to all these people, it's like a fucking well-oiled machine.
he
He's
knows what he's
methodical.
Doing.
He's focused. Like
He's got
it's
a
impressive
plan.
to watch if he was like solving a Rubik's cube.
Yeah.
But he's manipulating and ruining women. So not
And
very
even,
cool.
you know, even that morning routine, like those are the kind of things that you can brag to your girlfriends and coworkers about. You know, he has a smoothie ready for me every morning.
Different kind of smoothie.
Different
every
kind
morning,
of smoothie. He gets the shower going for me so the water's hot. And
Brings me my phone.
yeah, like all
He's
these
a
little
smart guy.
things that, and it's like those kind of like almost empty gestures that hide and cover up shitty behavior.
Yep. Yeah, they seem, day to day like this person really cares, but in reality, it's like 30 seconds of effort.
Yeah.
You know, like there's some like.
And it's really just to get something back for himself.
You're building equity in this relationship for when you need to call on it when you fuck up or something goes against your plan.
Exactly.
But as I said earlier, the first time she leaves John is when John, is it appendicitis? Honestly, after watching the episode before the finale, I've just put all that as like what gospel is now. Because like to me, it's like he goes there after eating that fentanyl lollipop for cancer patients.
I think it is something like drug related, a blockage or something.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, his small intestine has a block.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what it is. And he goes to the hospital, giving Deborah enough time to break into his stuff, sneak around the camera, and find out who John really is. All the restraining orders, all the charges laid against him, all that shit, all the legal documentation proving he is not who he says he is. And what does she do?
Well, okay, so first we do see a moment of her actually being fucking intelligent, her sneaking around the cameras.
And eventually packing her shit and leaving.
Yep. But then she goes back to him.
Like,
and picks him up from the fucking hospital and takes him back home and pretends like she never left him.
That, to me, was when I lost the last shred of empathy I had for Deborah Newell. Was just, like, you escaped the lion's den, and then you walked right back in. Nobody pushed you in. You walked right back in.
Exactly. And I was having such hope for her because there is one moment where I'm like, oh my fucking God, this is the first smart thing you've done this entire series. And it's when she comes home and John, in his typical creepy, I'm sitting on this couch staring daggers at you as you walk through the door, asks her, why did you go to our safety deposit box today, knowing there's supposed to be cash in there that's not there because John spent it on drugs. And she's like, oh, I don't care about the money. I just wanted to get our wedding rings so we could start wearing them again since people know about us being married now. It's like, fucking first smart thing you've done.
Yeah, covering your own tracks.
Yeah, for once, you're a step ahead of him, and it works.
And she's playing the part he thinks he's convinced her to play without her realizing it. Which, again, I like that. That's a really... there's a few episodes there, the chess game they have going on, really cool.
Yeah.
And I want to get into it in probably a few minutes, but when they bring the lawyer in, not just Ferris Bueller's best friend, but the actual badass lawyer that helps them.
Yeah.
That's really when things just get cranked up and shit starts going crazy. But when she goes back to the hospital and John convinces her that all that, again, legal documentation proving he is lying to her, when he convinces her all that isn't true, I was like, hey, you've done all this to yourself. You are doomed. Nobody's going to pull you out of this. You want this. And like, that's when the show changed for me. It stopped being, will this woman get it together and realize who this man is? And started being, how fucked up is this going to get?
Yeah.
That was the big turn.
Who's going to pay for her stupidity?
And we see that towards the end. We'll get into that soon too. But that going back, to me, they could have done without because they hadn't earned the build-up yet. They gave us too much of, here's why she should leave, and then she's going to leave. They didn't give us enough of why she may stick around. Maybe that was why that was their choice when they filmed the show, or as the viewers, that's what we were supposed to get from it. But I didn't feel like there was a lot of evidence in the Deborah is just blind in love with John column. You know, she had to be
Yeah.
really dumb to ignore a lot of the shit.
And that's like, I wonder if season 2 we're gonna get more of that. But I really, I feel like they kind of missed the window, to get us on board with, Team John.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, just as a, as a three-dimensional villain. Like, he obviously is that, but they could have added that dimension of, he's human, like, he is capable of making mistakes, and he's capable of manipulating people because of those mistakes. But instead, it's just like, he's cold, he's calculated, he loves drugs. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
and yeah, he's coming apart at the seams too early for it to be believable that he is, you know, he doesn't fool her for long enough for her to do what to marry him with no prenup, to just let his grubby fingers get all over her money.
Yeah, at a certain point, she's a willing participant in some of this. It's not 100% John, 0% Deborah. It's like 60-40, I'd say.
Yeah, like, I was like, obviously John is the one to blame. I don't, but just I don't understand why Deborah just lets it keep happening.
So, if you can't tell, we were not huge fans of Deborah Newell in Dirty John.
No.
No, it's true. We've talked about this a lot before we even recorded, how I was like, man, this episode is just going to be like an hour-long fucking Deborah stupid fest. Like, that's all it's going to be, because every episode, there were multiple moments of, what are you doing? Like, every episode. There were, like you said, some good points where she was smart, but majority of the time it was like, how is the story progressing with this many dumb moves being made?
And like, she fucks stuff up for the lawyer even.
Oh God, that was the most infuriating scene for me in the whole series, if you want to be the one to talk about what's going on. It's a bit farther in the story after she's left John for good and she's in hiding, and she's filed a restraining order against him.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work because he doesn't have a lawyer, so they get thrown out of court until another day.
So they show up for their first court appearance, and we meet the one other woman who may be even stupider than Deborah, that judge, who, oh, poor John, your wife's filing a restraining order, but because you've shown up with a cane and no lawyer, I'm going to take pity on you and not for a second think this is a fucking ploy.
Yeah, it's not like he has a criminal background you could look at to know about as a fucking judge. Literally, but he knows that. He went in there with that cane specifically to get that sympathy.
And that's a frequent ploy. It's a well used thing, not just in TV land, but in real life too.
Oh, in actual courtrooms, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like bringing your family when you're defense.
Yeah, and like to not show up with a lawyer, or for some reason, just yesterday, my lawyer fired me. I fired my lawyer. It doesn't work out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all that bullshit. But he ends up getting a granted extra time sort of thing to get his shit together.
Yeah, and so while they're waiting for the next court date to figure out whether the restraining order is going to get approved, Deborah calls John and asks to meet him at a coffee shop to be like, what the fuck do you want? Like, do you want me to just pay you and you'll leave me alone and this will be over? Like, what is it you want? And in typical John fashion, he doesn't really answer, I don't know. I just want to fuck with your life, basically.
I don't know what I want, but I'm going to get it. And
yeah.
It's like, that's not helpful.
And then when she tells her lawyer about it, what's his face from Scandal?
Yeah. I think he's also a lawyer in that.
Yes. Politician, lawyer, person. He's just like, what are you doing to me, Deborah? Like,
realist character in the whole series.
Yeah.
And
we just told a judge you're afraid of him, and then you call him up and ask you to meet him alone. Doesn't seem very afraid.
And see, that really stuck out to me too, because it was another instance where like Deborah's stupidity gained a whole new level. Because think of the situation that's going on. Like take Deborah out of it. Take the characters we know out of it. A husband and wife are getting a divorce because the wife fears for her safety, for her and her children, and files a restraining order. Okay? Let's say that happens. And then the regular instances play out where she goes and sees this husband and offers him money and just wants to be left alone. That person hired a lawyer because they're in a situation they don't know how to navigate correctly. That's why you get a lawyer when you go into a courtroom. I don't know how to navigate a courtroom. Same reason you get a doctor. I don't know how to fix my body to a certain degree. Like doctors do, though, so I'm going to go to them. She willfully ignores what the fuck this expert tells her and then, like, wonders why things go wrong. Like, that was when I went into the negatives for caring about Deborah Newell. Because, like, I can picture her on the couch sitting there after that lawyer breaks down, like, how are you paying me to convince a judge that you are afraid of this man when you will call this man, meet this man in public, and offer this man money? Do you not see what that does to our case? And she literally, like she just got a fucking pickaxe in the forehead, is just like, I'm just scared. It's like, that's not what we're talking about here. Like, you're past scared. You are now at a point where we are legally defending you.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I couldn't get past that. It's like, you're trying to throw emotions around in a court of law. That's not how it fucking works.
And it's like, I can understand her want to, like, he's going to make this as difficult as possible
Absolutely.
in court. But you know what? Send your lawyer. Send someone else.
Yeah, she's
Talk
justified.
to him on the phone. Like,
her feelings are justified and factual. Like, she's
her
scared.
actions are not.
I get her being scared and her thinking, if I throw money at this, it'll go away. I get that. That's all in line with her character. But the fact that that's how she would approach the situation is exactly why you hire a lawyer in those situations, because you don't approach them correctly.
Can we talk about her first lawyer for a second?
Yeah, Ferris Bueller's buddy.
Yeah. Like, most helpful man around.
Yeah, sweet man.
Such a sweet man. And, like, puts his head on the line.
Yeah.
Or his neck on the line.
Meets it, John. First time meeting him was like, that guy's a fucking psycho.
Like,
and
we need to help her.
Yeah, like, continues to help.
That's the type of person that should be a lawyer,
Yeah.
like, that should be in family law. And again, that's another moment where we see a brief glimpse of, like, Deborah outsmarting John, playing it smart. Because she opens the letter, she seals it back up, she gives it to John. Look what I got today. Like,
pretending like she doesn't know.
Yeah.
No.
I'm so dumb. You opened my mail.
Setting up John to go down there and fucking be John about it.
Yeah.
Like, that again, great plan.
I think what bothers me most about Deborah is that when she does such a good job of, playing dumb for John when she's kind of figured him out, it's because it's exactly how she acts at the beginning. Like, she wasn't playing dumb for a while. She was just dumb. Then she kind of figured it out. And then she's done a really good job of playing dumb while also making some big dumb decisions along the way. It's just like dumb, dumb, dumb.
The lines of dumb for benefit and just actually dumb could not be more blurred with Deborah Newell. Like, you're like, play dumb, play naive and get through something, or you actually don't realize the trouble you're in. That I'd never know when she's fucking doing that.
That's exactly it. It's really hard to tell.
Yeah. And, like, you know what? If that's a credit to Connie Britton as an actress, just crushing that role, you did an incredible job. If that was what you were going for, you nailed it to the point where we talked about your performance, not only on this podcast, but for days after finishing the show. Congratulations, and I mean that 100% sincerely. If you did not mean to do that, you have created a character I will never stop hating for the rest of my life.
Yeah, like...
That's mean. This could be like a clinic in storytelling or just the craziest shit I've ever seen off Netflix.
See,
like, I'm not sure.
I feel like if she didn't have her kids, like if the girls weren't involved.
Veronica and Tara.
Yeah.
Juno Temple and Julia Garner, respectively.
I think I might have a little more pity for her.
Yeah, kids add a whole other layer. You're not just thinking for yourself. You're thinking for your kids. That's two other lives you're worried about.
Exactly.
No, I agree with you on that.
And, again, watched it with my family. Obviously, weird viewing perspective that way. But, like, when my mom first started dating after her divorce, like, it was a while after. And she would only see people when we were with, our dad. it was like this huge buffer to protect us always.
Yeah, even while she's dipping her toe back into the dating world, right?
Yeah. And it was a long time before, we even knew about anyone, let alone met them. Obviously, we were younger and blah, blah, blah. I don't even know if we should really be talking about this on the podcast, but
Yeah.
no,
Family talk with Bobby and Nicole.
There's just no buffer. There's no safety. The very first time she's meeting this man, he meets her daughter.
Yeah.
That is unacceptable.
Well, let me ask you this, Nicole.
Yes,
do
Bobby.
you maybe think that Deborah's callous attitude towards dating and marriage is a result of her multiple failed marriages? Because if she's been married 4 times, that's a pretty carefree attitude towards marriage.
Yeah.
When you say, like, it's obviously not 50 times, but it's, like, 4 times more than the average person expects to get married after they get married.
And she's fairly young to be married 4
like
times.
mid-50s. Like, like, she's got a lot of life to live still, Like, I understand wanting to find somebody to live it with.
Yeah. I could agree with that. I'd be interested to see some of her past relationships explored as much as I want to see John's history explored a little more.
And those stories actually added another layer of frustration to Deborah Newell, because we see in the episode before the finale where we get John's perspective of everything that's gone on. He blows it with a bunch of women on stupid technicalities that, should have been obvious things to pick out for Deborah. Like, that one woman was wanted to surprise John at the hospital he said he worked at. So she called to find out when he'd be on break, and they said they'd never heard of him. So she thought, maybe I got the hospital wrong, and called the other hospital she thought it was, and they'd never heard of them. And then she realized he's lying to her. That's a fucking good job. You connected the dots. You got the fuck out of there.
And even when him and Deborah are chatting online, I think it is in the flashback episode of John's perspective, but we see Deborah being like, oh, I was thinking of taking a personal day Wednesday. Like, would you be available for lunch? Or, like, would you have surgeries? She's like, oh, I'll make myself available. Have you not seen Grey's Anatomy? There is no way that as a surgeon you can make yourself available in the middle of the day for lunch on a busy fucking surgery day.
I'd love to see that scene, though, where, like, a surgeon walks into a patient's room and is like, look, I know we got to get this new heart into you, but I just met this, like, 53-year-old cougar online, and she seems
and she's
DTF.
Rich.
Yeah, she seems DTF, and she's got a lot of money, so can we do this, like, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like, that's a fucking show. That's like Scrubs, like the unseen episodes.
I honestly think to a certain extent it's like this high class rich lifestyle she's lived, she's not in touch with reality.
No, exactly, you're right. She's not down to earth.
Yeah, like she has no idea.
Yep. She's out of touch with how it's done nowadays, which again we could play off to I don't want to sound like an asshole being like a senior or like an elderly person, because like, she's in her mid-50s, but somebody in that age gap wouldn't understand online dating typically as well as somebody within our age gap,
Yeah.
where we grew up with technology, like we were swiping left and right on Fruit Ninja before Tinder even became a thing, whereas like you should throw that in front of a person. I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, there's that gap that could be there. So I think her naivety about online dating was also another contributing factor to how John got in there. But that also says John is aware of how naive people online dating can be sometimes and uses it to his advantage, right? There's a lot in this show that I don't know whether to chalk it up to impressive, detailed cinematography and storytelling, or they just threw so much shit at us that some of it stuck. I'm not sure. I said in the beginning too, and I'll double down on it. Eric Bana is so fucking good in this show. Like, the character he plays is on point every scene. He's always that manipulative, right underneath the surface, tense person, every scene.
And we see a lot of range. Like, you see him cool and collected, and he has that mask perfectly on, and you see him crumbling and falling apart. You see the mask coming off. Like, he plays the entire range flawlessly.
And I like when he
and
knows,
believably.
I like how he'll actually be his full asshole self at points because he knows nobody that needs to, or nobody that this would be detrimental for them to see is going to see or hear about this.
Yeah.
Like the two, like you were saying, the first lawyer that she deals with, the first time they go in there, Eric Bana is just like staring him down like he's going to explode at any moment, right? Comes back in there and he's exploded. Because he knows Deborah's never going to see this, you know? And Deborah's not going to remember him being anything but quiet and respectful, even though he was staring daggers at this guy.
Because Deborah can't see that. And anytime Deborah looks over, it's like, oh, but mask back on.
Oh, Deborah's never going to hear about this? I'm going to be a fucking psycho. Like, literally, like, to me, that's the part that's really jarring is, like, we've all had bad customer experience, you know? Bad customer service, whatever it may be. I'm not going to yell at the person behind the counter because halfway out of that restaurant or whatever it is, I'm going to feel bad for doing that. He is already, like, you know, decided, convinced himself, and there's no going back on going in there and being a fucking psycho before he's even done it. Like, that's what he's going to do because that's who he is. You know, like, it's not an outburst. Like, he stifles that because he's always that, which is a scary thought.
And he's able to go to, like, you know, 0 to pissed.
Yeah, because it's always there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, the average person can freak out at stuff, but you see that build. Like, you see them getting irritated, you know, you can kind of tell that's coming. But you can't with John. Like, it's like, yeah, I'm cool and collected, and now I'm screaming in your face.
Yeah, like, even a short fuse is still a fuse.
Yeah.
You know, but John is like you said, he whips the mask off, and it's there. You know, it's not a build. He's got so much to be mad about already.
It's like the Hulk. He's always angry.
Yeah, oh my God. This is a sequel to the Hulk. Spike Lee, get on it. I want to see that. Yeah, I want to see this Eric Bana sequel with John Meehan. But now, you know, I think we've covered like 6/8 of the show at this point, I'd say. 3/4 of the show, I'd say. The end quarter, though, this is kind of, to me, came out of nowhere. Because as we've said, we were watching this with a few other people. I'm like, in my role, I'm watching it with my spouse, her little sister, her sister's spouse, and my mother-in-law. That's who's watching all this stuff. The final episode, where, spoilers if you haven't seen it, John Meehan fucking dies. Gets straight up murdered by Deborah's daughter, Tara. In a horribly gruesome fight. Like I swear, they were given a budget for like gore and violence, and they just like huddled it together until that last episode. There's like, no, we're not going to spend a goddamn penny on this until this final fight, and it's going to be worth it. And it was. We were just sitting on the couch screaming because after a while, this back and forth goes on. The restraining order is granted. I think that's what happens, right?
I believe so.
And John is now fully stalking Deborah, Veronica, and Tara, trying to find an entry into their lives any way he can. And there's that creepy montage of like him walking by on the street or him like slowly driving by, and like,
yeah,
that was cool. I dug that. That was a cool way of doing you know, perspective, where it's like
following the assistant to find out where they're staying,
and how we see as like they don't realize that he's still doing, like, you know, they think that they're just going into their apartment building. He's watching them go into their apartment building because that's how far ahead he is in these situations. That's how much he thinks ahead. After going out to going out into the desert and digging a fucking grave,
like, holy fuck,
like busts out his sweet knife set to pick a best knife to fucking kill someone with. We're like, we know what John's doing before the episode even goes down.
Yeah, puts together his little kill kit.
Like, he's ready to go out there and murder someone. They just don't realize who it is, and it ends up being Deborah's youngest daughter, Tara. And This I didn't realize this until that scene happened, but they had been slightly building this with her love of zombies and like pop culture and shit like that, right?
Yeah.
Because what happens is she goes back to her apartment to grab some stuff before a concert and leave her dog, I think, too, is the other thing she was going to do.
No, so she was going to take the dog with her, but
okay.
She forgot her bag at home and had to go back.
But John surprises her in the parking lot with a knife and attacks her. And they get into a really bad scuffle over this, and she takes a few slashes. But honestly, watching this, there was a part of me that was just like, this guy's like, listeners, I do not condone attacking someone, especially with a weapon. But the way John did that, not how you're supposed to do that. Because I've done courses in the past where they like show you here's what happens when somebody comes at you with a certain weapon. The way, like, if somebody comes at you the way John Meehan did, you have the highest possible chance of getting out of that situation because he has no fucking idea what he's doing.
Although Tara did a fantastic job of
Oh,
defending herself.
Absolutely. No.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, and that's why I enjoyed it so much, because the way that he starts like thrusting the knife at her and slashing at her is somebody who doesn't fully realize how to wield something like that. They're like, they think that you're going to stab somebody once and that's going to be the end. They're going to die. That's not how it fucking works. And he's, trying to get her any way he can without realizing he's lowering his own guard doing this. And when there's one scene in slow motion where she gets a foot up because she's kicking him away so he can't really stab at her, but she kicks him in the wrist and he drops the knife. And in my mind, literally, it's like, that's what you do when somebody holds a knife like that in a hand, blade out towards you. If you can open that hand even just a little bit, that knife's going to fall out because they're not holding it correctly. And she, gets lucky and does that. But that was like, oh, fuck. Like, that was that moment of, like, years ago. And it's like, if you can get that knife out of their hands, you have a way better chance of surviving. And she fucking did it.
Go Tara.
And fucks him up with it. That's what, like, oh, my God. Fucks him up with that knife. Hard to watch. Like, we're cheering for him. We're cheering for her. But like, fuck. If you haven't seen this scene, even if you don't plan on watching the entire series, just go to YouTube, type in Dirty John stabbing scene, and you're going to fucking see what we're talking about. Crazy good. Basically, in the episode before, we see what John is capable of doing in terms of lying, in terms of cheating, but also when he's in prison, he cuts himself open to get drugs. He inflicts fake stab wounds on himself so that he can go to the infirmary and get morphine because he's that addicted to drugs, right?
And is willing to hire a hitman to kill his ex-wife and the judge.
No, cop. And the cop that testified against him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, in a way, it's like, do you think you're fucking Tony Soprano?
Yeah.
Like, you're in prison. You've lost. Like, you're not in a mansion in Jersey calling the shots. You're talking to a guy who's probably serving like the next 300 years in prison because you want someone dead. Like, you fucking lost. You're just trying to collect something off this, right? But when he cuts himself open and then later he's like, oh yeah, it was a WMD and or whatever, like improvised
shrapnel
explosive
in the
device.
War because I'm a hero.
It's like, literally, hearing that, it's like, this guy somehow had time to go to medical school, become a surgeon, basic training, and serve his country, and be injured, but then come back and continue to be a fucking surgeon? How many people do you know survive explosions and can move their hands intricately?
Not many.
Like, explosions fuck you up, even if you don't get hurt by them. Like, the reverberation through your head, like, that fucks you up. Like, you don't come out of that okay. And he's like, yeah, we drove over a bomb and the guy next to me exploded, but I'm fine. Like, that, like, his story is not well thought out. That's what really gets frustrating, is anybody keeping track of the story, like the viewer is in this show, would realize how much of a fucking fraud he is. But she doesn't. Like, imagine we're lying in bed a couple days from now, and I have like a scratch from work or something like that on me. And I'm just like, yeah, tiger hunting in Africa. Like, when the fuck did I have time to do that?
Really? We've spent the last decade together. You didn't take me to Africa.
That's what I mean. Like, it's such a stupid way. He could have just said anything besides, oh, like that lie implies he went to basic training, succeeded in basic training, moved up the chain of command in the fucking U.S. military, saw action, didn't die in the action. Like, it's just such a fucking, but he just thinks he can get away with it.
And she believes it, though.
That's why. It's because he knows she'll buy it. Like, it's, anybody else is like, no, that's, like, imagine, even if, like, that was, like, a one-night stand. Like, you wake up the next night, and, like, the person's like, oh, yeah, it's from an IED. I'd be like, why would you fucking tell me that? Like, you know what I mean? It's such a weird, like, it's not anything you drop into any conversation, let alone this one you're trying to convince a person that you're not a fucking lying piece of shit, you know?
It's like he just thinks it's a sob story.
Yeah, it's adding to his story.
Tug at your heartstrings.
It's just dumb. It's not in a good way. Like, there's so many other ways he could have spun that would have been better, you know? Like, oh, I fell on a piece of farming equipment when I was 11. Done. No, but I have to fucking survive an IED.
Yeah, but that doesn't make him a war hero.
But that's what I mean. That's what makes it funny is that's the level that he goes to is like, I need to sell this shit even when that level undercuts him trying to sell shit.
Yeah.
But to get back to the fucking fight scene, drops the knife. Tara picks it up and just starts stabbing the shit out of him in the back, in the kidneys, in the sides.
Finally in the eye.
Well, he tries to get the knife from her by lifting himself off of her. And that's when she just, right through the eye, gets him, like, fucking right in the head. Like, not even, like
So
buries
gross.
the knife in his eye. Like, that's, like, you could break
Eye
that handle
stuff
off.
freaks me out, guys.
And it came out of nowhere, too. Like, all of us, all five of us on the couch, simultaneously, were just like, ah! As soon as that, the eyeball stabbing happened.
Yeah. All of us were like, oh, as the knife was dropping, and then during that eye stab, like, fucking horrified.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. And then the show actually kicks into a really interesting look at, like, post-trauma, because he survives the stabbing initially. Like, he's lying on the pavement dying, but he's still alive. He just doesn't know he's fucking dead yet, basically. Like, your brain is shutting down because you had a knife put in it. Gets back to the hospital, and Tara is distraught that she's killed someone, even though that someone is the guy who tried to kill her, abused her mother, stalked her sister,
and attacked her.
Yeah, that
Like,
says a lot about her.
she was defending herself.
Absolutely, and that was again another point where the show takes it when they're like, no, now we got to find out if Tara is going to be charged with murder. It's like that shouldn't even be a fucking thing.
And like those cops were pissing me off.
Yeah. And they that pissed me off too when they question her while she's still covered in blood. Like that, honestly, that's not how that goes.
No.
Like even like police aren't that shitty. Like unless you're covered in someone else's blood, and they have no idea why you've done this, then I understand the questioning. Not when you're in a hospital bed being treated for wounds you received from an attack.
And at the very least, like as a victim, I'm sure they ran his name through some sort of database. Would it not have come up that, these two were connected?
Babe.
Through this restraining
Those are the other
order?
John Meehans. You don't understand.
Yeah.
There
are countless John Meehans with identical faces and fingerprints.
All these John Meehans look like Eric Bana. What the fuck? But yeah, and that was an interesting way too, because it plays out where John dies. He becomes brain dead. He's not even like in a coma. He's not even a vegetable, like a vegetative state. He's fucking gone. There's no coming back. And then Deborah makes perhaps the...
Again.
I'm saying it. I just saw this flash of realization on Nicole's face. I'm just like, it went from like listening to like a quick head snap to anger and then like surprise. Where Deborah has like, she's John's wife. She has to make this decision. He is on life support. He will never return. Do they want to keep him on life support? And Deborah turns to the nurse that's given her this decision and says, it's not my decision to make. What?
You'll have to find someone else.
What? You are legally...
The obvious answer is pull the plug right now.
You, in a legal standing, you are that person. Like, it's in my mind, it's like, does Deborah not realize it's her job?
Yeah.
Like, she has to say, I don't want to make this decision so that anybody else can make that decision because it is so profoundly her goddamn decision to make.
Luckily,
oh, God.
They find John's sister, who becomes...
fucking saint.
Yeah. And it's immediately like, pull the plug.
Yeah. Oh, he's never coming back? No. Okay, pull the plug. Like, done.
And like, thank God.
And then literally a saint when she talks to Tara and Tara's like, I'm sorry I killed your brother. Like, I know he was a bad person, but he was a father and a husband and a brother. And she's like, you didn't take him from us. He took himself from us years ago.
He was alone.
Because he wanted to be.
He had a sister. He had children. Because those are names you call someone related to you by blood.
Yeah.
He was alone because he wanted to be.
Yeah. Which, and she even says too, like, that says a lot about who you are as a person, being concerned about this after he fucking attacked you with a knife.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm sorry, I killed him. Like, no. Like, I'd like to, sitting here, I like to think, like, if I was in that situation, I'd be like, fuck that guy. Like, I'm glad I got to fuck him up. Like, no, I'm sure it's an emotionally traumatizing thing. Whole different perspective.
Yeah.
But to see that and actually believe it. Like, if anything, I cared more about Veronica and Tara as characters than Deborah.
Absolutely.
They're so much better.
We'll say one of my favorite quotes while we were from the people we were watching this series with was, as Tara's getting attacked, her dog is with her. So her dog starts biting at John's foot because it's a smaller dog.
Yeah, it's like a 30, 40-pound dog.
Yeah. So my sister has a giant long-haired German Shepherd.
Purebred. This thing is huge.
Yeah, named Blaze. She's a big snuggle muffin, but like...
Yeah, unless you're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Exactly. So I was like, yeah... What is her dog's name in the series?
Remember.
I can't remember.
Coachella? Was the dog named Coachella?
Yeah, Coachella.
Coachella the dog.
So we're like, yeah, like the dog.
Get him, Coachella.
Get him, exactly. And my sister Jess was like, if that was Blaze, like, he'd be dead by now. Like, there is no way that some guy would be coming at me with the knife and I have Blaze and Blaze is just going to chew on his ankle a little bit.
If that was a 110-pound German Shepherd, like, she would be digesting John before any of this went down. Like, it's scary.
And that did make me feel a lot safer because I don't think I have ever related to a character more than Veronica, you know, talking about Tara and, you know, she's more fragile than me. I need to protect her. She's my little sister. That's my job. And like, yeah, I'm going to camp outside
in an Uber driver's car.
Yeah. Her apartment all night. And yeah.
No, see, and that was like, if you're going to watch this show, I'd encourage you to watch it with people. Not like, don't watch it with like your mom and two sisters, like, you know, unless that's your dynamic. But like, you will get more out of this show if you're watching with somebody along appreciating the stupidity and the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
Like, if you watch this on your own, I haven't done this. I don't know. But I feel like I'd turn it off like episode 2, be like, this woman's fucking dumb. Why am I watching this? But the back and forth is what gets you. That's why we're doing this on this podcast, because it was a show we didn't really intend to like, enjoyed, but not for the best reasons.
And also, if you're watching this show and you're not saying, Deborah, why are you so stupid every 30 seconds, you're definitely not ready for the dating world in 2019, and you need to reevaluate how you identify red flags.
Yeah. If you think Deborah was the innocent in this and this could happen to anybody, you're wrong. I'm sorry, you're wrong. And we even see that in the show when other women who this could have happened to smarten the fuck up and get out. Like, that's 9 times out of 10, if you're in a situation like this and you feel, if everyone's telling you need to smarten up and get out, and you feel like things a little bit off, it could be a John Meehan situation. You never know.
There are definitely monsters out there in the world, real world and TV world, who are very good at hiding what they are and manipulating people. But if something seems off, trust your gut. And, you know, don't marry them in Vegas without a prenup after only knowing them for 2 months.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good idea.
That seems like at least like a 6-month minimum, right?
Yeah, I'd say at least. Like, you know, just feel them out. You know, discuss religion. Learn about how you will raise children.
See where they live.
Like, you know, learn their blood type before you get married to them. Yeah?
Find out if they're an intravenous drug user.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, oh God. And that was also really funny to me, was that John tried to play up like this high, like, you know, when you think of a surgeon, that's like top tier doctor, you know?
Yeah.
That's like, I understand it's not practicing medicine, but like you can't just be, you can't just learn to become a surgeon. You need like some traits you were born with. Like, you can't be a surgeon with shaky hands, you know? Like that, you could be a genius with shaky hands. Sorry, you're not going to be a surgeon. You know, like, that is top tier doctoring. But he's got track marks.
Yeah.
Like, you can't see right now, but I'm making the gesture of like blowing my mind. You know, like, it's weird. Just that to me is like, he could have just been like a floor manager for a factory. You know, it's a good job. Like, no, I'm not trying to look down on it, but it's like, that's not going to bring a lot of questions. You know.
And also, he's not. You know, not only is he not a surgeon, he's not actually a doctor.
He's not even medically knowledgeable. Like, he's just dumb.
Like, he has like some sort of nursing anesthesia position.
Yeah.
And I totally believe nurses work just as, if not harder than doctors for half the pay. But I don't think those hardworking nurses go around saying, "Oh yeah, I'm a doctor."
Yeah. Oh, I'm a surgeon.
Because that's fucked up and illegal.
Yeah. No, that's true. No, it's definitely it's a weird dynamic, but it's fun to watch.
It is.
So now that we've covered everything that goes on in Dirty John, and I think we've been more than vocal in our hatred for Deborah Newell. What would you say is your favorite episode, Nicole?
Definitely the last one.
The last one. This young woman fought like hell.
Yeah. Watching Tara kill John was fantastic.
Yes.
Like it was so stressful and one of the most upsetting scenes watching that attack. But the satisfaction of knowing he was finally out of their lives and couldn't hurt them any longer. And then seeing the scene with his sister and Tara, and also Deborah, like that final scene in the bathroom where she hears other people just being like, "This woman is dumb."
Yeah.
Like
the viewer walks into the bathroom.
Yeah.
And it's like, what a fucking stupid woman. What a weird show. Like, oh god.
it was a really good payoff, and it made me intrigued for season 2.
See, I'm not sure there is going to be a season 2 because he's dead.
But when it was signed for 2 seasons right off the bat.
Wow, good to know. Good to know.
We'll
have to cover that season then.
I think it's going to be. See, I'm not sure if it ends with Deborah calling a newspaper reporter, TV reporter person.
Yeah, wants a story.
Who calls her about the story and saying like, "I want to share my side of how this happened as a warning for other people to avoid it," which is very noble.
Yeah, admirable.
Don't be dumb. Summed up.
Yep.
There we go.
3 words printed in paper. Don't be dumb.
So I don't know if like the documentary series is kind of supposed to be like that look at things, or if season 2 is going to be a more of a that look. I also think it would be really cool to see more of like the stuff he's done before he gets involved with Deborah.
That's what I want from season 2.
Because, we see a little bit of that, but they drop a lot of situations that have happened that we don't see enough of.
Yeah.
I also think his first wife is fantastic.
Yep.
And I would love to see more of how she's doing post John.
That phone call from Deborah to her too in the last episode was really nice too, where she's like, I wanted to call and I wanted to tell you, but I knew that sometime you would call me.
Yeah.
And that just knew it from it's like going through a war. It's like, I know eventually when it's over with, you're going to need someone to talk to because I've gone through it too.
Exactly.
But instead of a war, it's Eric Bana. It's Eric Bana.
So what is your favorite episode?
I would say episode 7, Chivalry, where they show you the actual goings-on behind John and what's happening there. Because honestly, I apologize because I know there's a way better movie to reference here, but who does this better? It reminded me of the Saw movies where you get a little bit more of each thing as the story goes on, where it would show you be like, this person put this person in a trap, and then they did this, and then that turned into this. But instead it was like John setting up all the different things as they were happening and all the different milestones and instances, how they went about according to him. I really like that. That's a really cool way to tell a story because you give us the story and then you show a different perspective. I'm a sucker for that.
And we got so much more detail from his perspective with all those situations.
If that comes up in future series, I'll tell you right now, that's what I'm gonna love. That's gonna be a big positive if we get those. Here's the story and here's the other take of the story.
Yeah.
I really like that. And that was the entirety of episode 7 was just that. So easy pick for me.
That was definitely a contender for me. I really enjoyed that expanded view, especially with the woman who shows up at their house, like the stalker.
Oh,
Deborah's
druggie,
stalker.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
How he's like, before you smoke those drugs I just gave you, here's the job I need you to do.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm not going to smoke that shit. Are you crazy? But he'll fucking do heroin.
Exactly. And gets so violent with her too. If you do, stray at all, I'll, fucking give you a reason to regret it.
Yeah.
Or whatever he
and then
says.
does and fucking throws her around and shit in that house too. Yeah. No, it's definitely
so violent.
And again, that's what I really dug that about the show about that episode was the behind the scenes. And by scenes I mean horrible things that happened to Deborah and her family.
Yeah.
Well, this should be an interesting one to pick, Nicole, because I'm going to ask you who your MVP of the season was. And I have some obvious guesses, but I wouldn't be surprised if you hit me with left field. So, who was your MVP for season 1 of Dirty John?
So well, oh my goodness, this is a tough one to answer because I have like Tara.
Tara?
Tara has to be MVP. She kills John.
She kills John.
Yeah. She ultimately saves the day. But I think really it's the sisters all together. Tara, Veronica, and John's sister, whose name I'm totally blanking on.
Yeah, she's in I think a combined 5 minutes of the whole series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think those three do the most throughout the season to put John in his place, to like prevent John from hurting more people. Like as much as Veronica doesn't kill him, isn't there at the end, but she really prevents him doing damage earlier.
Definitely.
She's alert. She's willing to put in the effort, and she's smart, and she's like both girls kind of are telling their mom to step up her game right from the get-go. But another contender I had for MVP was Ferris Bueller's best friend, the first lawyer.
I feel bad because I know his name, and I just any other day I could rattle it off to you like it's no big deal. And I've just been trying to think of it, and I can't think of it. So,
but no, he went above and beyond when he really had no obligation to.
Not even financial obligation.
Yeah, like no responsibility to them as a potential client, and even having their, his secretary, assistant, paralegal, saying like, no, like what a creep, like let's leave him alone. He's like, no, I have to do something. I can't leave that on my conscience. And I think without that, she would never have started the process of removing him from her life again.
Yeah.
Like, because that's after she has already gone back to him at the hospital, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
I don't think she would have ever started to find a way out without someone totally outside of the situation being like, look, he's crazy, you need help.
Yeah.
And here's someone who can help. I have a very hard time picking MVPs.
I know. And this is tough too, because like one of the main characters is horrible. Like it's not even like you can pick like like you have no idea how badly I want to be like John is my MVP, but like I can't. Like he's not. Like he, as a character, the best character in the whole show, the most developed, the most in depth, best character.
He accomplishes the most.
But
he gets the closest to his goals, but his goals are fucked.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like it's hard to be like he's the most valuable. I would say the obvious most valuable is Tara. Like I want to agree with you on that. I'd say that is my answer because Tara just plays this like she's just invested enough, whereas Veronica is like constantly giving her mom shit about John. Veronica's got her own life, or Tara's got her own life, and like she lives it. It's like, you know what, Mom, you do you. I'm going to be vocal when things are going bad, though. But I really want to give the MVP for me to Deborah, because this whole story involves her going from somebody who we don't like to somebody who not only acknowledges that they have caused a lot of this themselves, but also wants to make amends for that. And I think that's the largest character arc. Because,
that's a fantastic answer.
A lot of people want it to be, like, for Tara and Veronica, they have growth, obviously, as characters. Not a lot. I'd say Tara way more than Veronica. But Deborah is the one who really learns how fucked up she made all this. How fucked up things got when she brought John into their life. And I'd say that's the biggest contributing thing to the season for me.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, thank you. I spent some time thinking about it today up on a ladder, so I figured I'd use it here. So, you know what? I think we've covered everything for Dirty John.
I have one thing I would like to suggest for this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who is your most hated person this season?
For this series?
Yeah, for this series. Deborah and John aside. Because obviously John is like...
Yeah, evil. And Deborah, we've said, is dumb. I think you already know who I'm gonna say probably. Now that I've given it a few seconds of thought, Arlene Hart, Deborah's mom.
Thank you.
Yep.
Same answer.
Played by Jean Smart, who honestly does a great job. Again, another great character. I just fucking hate the character.
Acts so well that I hate you.
Yeah, that was like her whole contribution, and I know we haven't really mentioned much of it as a huge part to the story, but Deborah's sister, just a quick reminder about what happened. Deborah's sister was murdered by her husband because she wanted to divorce him, and after he murdered her, Deborah's mother defended him in court against the death penalty.
And not only that, the daughter had been trying to leave him for a while.
And they kept saying, yeah, don't. They kept pushing her back.
And the mom was letting him stay with her.
Yes. Yeah.
And, kept saying, oh, it'll all work out.
She's just difficult. She loves you. And she's literally telling him, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's a fucking hard paradox to try to process, Like, I couldn't even imagine how tough that'd be to get through. Obviously, the answer is not murder your spouse.
And to be the last person to speak to someone before they go to murder your child.
Yeah, that statement alone. Think of how fucked up that statement is.
Right?
You're the last person who spoke to the person who murders your child. Who the fuck is that person?
And then you go and defend them at their murder trial?
Jesus. And her whole reasoning behind it is God.
Yeah.
We're good Christians, so we defend people. It's like, again, I don't want to touch on that. I'm not trying to dive into a religious debate here. But I can't imagine a single person thinking of God in a positive way after their child is murdered. I can't.
No.
I can't see a single person doubling down on it's all part of his plan. Believe what you want, all the power to you, but you've just been handed the most tragic event I think anybody can have on this planet happen to them. The loss of a child. And your first instance is forgive that person because God told you to? No. You are not human.
I'm kidding.
Like that to me, watching that, like I understand her not wanting to hate him because hating him makes your life worse. I don't know the actual quote, but it's like holding a grudge is like eating poison and hoping someone else dies or something,
yeah.
Whatever the paraphrase for that is. I get that approach to it. Why hold this grudge on him? He's in jail. But you don't have to fucking try to get him out of jail.
And you can forgive him in a way that doesn't go and be his greatest defender. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. And imagine what that would do in an actual court case. If the parent of the person you just killed came to your defense and was like, don't kill him.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I was that lawyer, I wouldn't even feel like that was a slam dunk. I'd be like, what are we doing here?
Well, how could you be motivated to try that case?
Yeah. That's a side story. And also, how could we not bring this? We couldn't go this whole time in the podcast and not bring it up. That scene where John says to Deborah's nephew,
Trey,
it's a good thing your father shot your mother so she couldn't see how much of a coward you are, or something like that. I was just like, dude, are you writing a fucking rap verse?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
You are a straight up monster.
It's like, that's what you'd expect to hear at the end of a fucking diss track from Eminem. You know what I mean? Something, and we'd hear that and be like, oh my God, I never knew that person's father killed their mother.
Yeah.
That would be the this is what happened. But he straight up says it to his face, you are terrible and your parents are stupid.
On a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. Closing the door like you would on a Jehovah's Witness coming to your house. Okay, well, have a good day. But,
and it's
just
this
so
is
you know,
your
your parents
family.
are stupid.
This is your...
Yeah, you're trying to get good with this family. That's what I mean. Can you imagine if, again, do a one-to-one comparison with our relationship. If I, said that to Maddie.
Yeah.
Anything, the next time I see Maddie say something about her parents or anything horrible and just be like, all right, have a good day.
See ya.
And then she'd tell you, and what would you do? you'd beat the shit out of me, right? Like,
Right?
that'd be the only time where you would physically put your hands on me in a violent way.
That was the scene you brought up earlier from the Easter dinner where he's in his sweatpants playing video games. I was like, I don't even have to imagine how I would react in that situation, because my mom would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
My mom is so nice and sweet, but she'd be like, "Get some clothes on and help."
Yeah.
Like,
the
what
family
are you
is
doing?
here. Yeah. And
Are you feeling ill?
And Deborah's like, "Oh, John's just not used to the crowds." Like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
John only has multiple children from a previous marriage, but he doesn't know how to be at a family function.
I will say this. Deborah deserves the best man on this planet. I'll give her that.
Yeah.
Because she believes every man is that man. So she should get that one, so she's not constantly undercutting her own beliefs with this shit.
She is a good spouse, She gives
Yeah.
you the benefit of the doubt. She's super supportive. John's opinion, yeah, let's do it. Like,
and again, like we've said on paper, Deborah's a catch. She's
yeah.
a successful businesswoman, self-made. She's not bad to look at. Like, she's still got a lot of life, like a lot of years you can spend. Like, what I mean? It's not like there's not a lot in the negative category there, except for the fact that she is perhaps the most monstrously dumb person I've ever seen on a TV show. But aside from that, not bad.
Yeah.
So,
If you can get around that,
yeah.
she'll design the shit out of your home.
Yeah, exactly. She'll design the shit out of your home and let you play Madden on the couch when her family's over. Honestly, I want to get a still shot of that scene because it's just funny watching Eric Bana walk into the room. And, like, the scene is like, okay, I just imagine the director like, okay, Eric, you're going to walk in here with your sandwich. You're going to look like you don't give a fuck. You're going to sit on the couch. You're going to put your sandwich down. You're going to pick up your controller, and you're just going to start playing. And he sits on the way he sits on the couch is like watching Mark Zuckerberg try to talk to somebody. It's like he's never done this before, and picks up that controller, and it, like, immediately has that that, like, ghostly tether of like, oh, I gotta put the controller close to the TV and holds it way the fuck out here. I just love it. Like it's watching a millionaire who's never played video games try to pretend they've played video games. Love it.
I swear there were some moments where he got direction that was like, okay, now look like the biggest douchebag possible, and he nails it.
Yeah, exactly. Just pretend somebody told you the Hulk was a good movie. Action.
Go.
You son of a bitch. And then we get Dirty John.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think we've covered the entire season, top to bottom. And, it's been a lot of fun. It's been good. Not for the reasons we typically watch TV shows for, but I'm glad that we can watch these shows that aren't like getting into Better Call Saul. Like, this is going to be a great show. We know the creators behind this show do a good job. Dirty John, the only thing that had me invested was Eric Bana. And he's the worst part of the show. Like,
I needed to see what happened, how this family turned out.
Yeah.
It got a lot of response from all of us watching.
It did. And hopefully you get some response from it too, and you enjoyed it, and you didn't sink a bunch of time into the show and hate it, because that'd be bad. We are still in the middle of debating what our next series is going to be, because we've done a series with 4 seasons. We've done a series with 1 season. I think it'd be nice to do something that's going to get us a couple of episodes. So we have some on the docket that we're going to talk about. But if you're listening and you have any shows you've watched that you think are too good not to watch and talk about, we'd love to hear the suggestions. We have basically every streaming service you can find. And aside from that, we can find whatever we need to online. So if you have some shows that you'd love for us to watch and you think would be great for the podcast, please let us know.
And please let us know what you've been thinking about the podcast. Only if it's nice, though. I'm sensitive. I can't take mean comments, guys.
Don't worry.
Share the love.
I'll filter all out. You won't see anything bad. Yeah, and by all means, comment along with us if you think we're totally off base. If you think Deborah was the most in-depth character you've ever seen, please let us know. I'd love to hear that description and explanation. And thanks again for listening to episode 5 of Seasoned Veterans. I am Bobby.
I'm Nicole. Stay happy.
We'll
See you next time. We said it at the same time.